In the heart of what is now Mexico, a remarkable civilization once flourished, Tenochtitlan, the dazzling capital of the Aztec Empire. Rising from the mists of legend and history, this city was unlike any other in the world at its time, a testament to human ingenuity and ambition. Built on a series of islands in the middle of a vast lake, the city was a marvel of engineering. Its bustling markets overflowed with goods from across Mesoamerica, while towering temples reached toward the sky, echoing with the sounds of ritual and daily life. Intricate causeways and canals connected neighborhoods, allowing canoes to glide through the city's watery streets, making Tenochtitlan a vibrant hub of commerce and culture. The Aztecs, once wandering nomads, were guided by a powerful prophecy, an eagle perched on a cactus devouring a serpent. This vision, they believed, would reveal the place where they were destined to build their great city. After years of searching, they found this sacred sign on a small marshy island in Lake Texcoco. Undeterred by the challenging landscape, they began to build, transforming the swampy ground into a thriving metropolis. To feed their growing population, the Aztecs invented chinampas, ingenious floating gardens that turned the lake into fertile farmland. These green islands allowed the city to flourish, supporting what would become the largest urban center in the pre-Columbian Americas. Through a combination of fierce warfare, strategic alliances, and a complex system of tribute, the Aztecs extended their influence across the Valley of Mexico. Their armies were feared, their diplomacy shrewd, and their reach vast. Aztec society was highly organized, with a strict social hierarchy and advanced knowledge in fields like astronomy, mathematics, and writing. Priests studied the stars to guide both agriculture and religious ceremonies, while scribes recorded the empire's achievements. Conquered peoples were required to pay tribute, offering goods, food, and fatefully human lives for religious rituals. These ceremonies, often held atop grand pyramids, were believed to sustain the gods and ensure the world's survival. This tribute system brought immense wealth and resources to Tenochtitlan, filling its markets and treasuries. Yet, it also bred deep resentment and hardship among the subjugated peoples, who bore the burden of the empire's demands. Beneath the empire's glittering surface, old rivalries and simmering tensions threatened its stability. Discontent grew in the shadows, as subject peoples and ambitious nobles alike questioned the cost of Aztec rule. The Aztecs' rise was nothing short of extraordinary, but even as their empire reached its zenith, the seeds of its downfall were already sown, hidden beneath the surface, waiting for the right moment to emerge. The story of the Aztecs is one of ambition, ingenuity, and the fragile balance of power, a civilization that soared to incredible heights, but whose fate would ultimately be shaped by forces both within and beyond its walls. The Aztec world was shaped by a complex belief system, where every aspect of life was infused with spiritual meaning and ritual significance. Their understanding of the universe was deeply rooted in myth, legend, and a profound respect for the forces of nature. The Aztecs saw time as a great cycle, with creation and destruction repeating endlessly. Their famous calendar stone is a testament to this cyclical view of creation, marking the passage of ages and the ever-present need to honor the gods. Central to their faith was the belief that the sun, the source of all life, needed nourishment, human sacrifice, to rise each day. This was not an act of cruelty, but a sacred duty, a way to maintain cosmic order and ensure the survival of the world. Victims, often prisoners of war, were seen as messengers to the gods, their sacrifice a vital offering that kept the universe in balance. These rituals were public, solemn, and deeply spiritual, witnessed by thousands in the great temples. Aztec society was a strict hierarchy. Each person had a place and a role, from the highest noble to the humblest commoner. At the top stood the emperor, followed by powerful nobles and priests who guided both spiritual and political life. Warriors earned honor and status through bravery in battle, while commoners worked the land, traded in markets, and kept the city thriving. There was some social mobility. Acts of courage or achievement could elevate one's status, especially for warriors who captured enemies in battle. Education was highly valued. Boys and girls attended schools where they learned history, religion, music, and civic duty, preparing them for their roles in society. Life in Tenochtitlan blended the sacred and the everyday. Grand ceremonies at the Templo Mayor brought the community together, reinforcing their shared beliefs. The city's vibrant markets bustled with activity, selling everything from feathers and cacao to maize and obsidian tools, reflecting the richness of Aztec culture. The city's organization and discipline were as impressive as its religious devotion, with canals, causeways, and neighborhoods carefully planned for order and efficiency. The Aztecs' rituals, though shocking to outsiders, were central to their worldview, connecting them to their gods and ancestors. Their civilization was defined by a unique mix of order, faith, and daily life, where the spiritual and the practical were never far apart. This combination astonished the first Europeans who witnessed it, leaving them both fascinated and bewildered by the Aztecs' customs. The Aztecs' beliefs shaped every aspect of their society, for better and for worse, leaving a legacy that still echoes in the heart of Mexico today. In 1519, ominous signs troubled Emperor Montezuma. Comets, fires, and boiling lakes. Into this anxious world arrived Hernán Cortés and his Spanish soldiers, armed with steel, guns, and horses. The Aztecs, awed and confused, wondered if these strangers were gods foretold by legend, especially Quetzalcoatl, the feathered serpent. Montezuma hesitated, torn between fear and diplomacy. Cortés, sensing opportunity, exploited this uncertainty. Lavish gifts from Montezuma only fueled Spanish greed for gold. The Spanish resolved to march inland, seeking the source of this wealth. Misunderstandings and ambition set the stage for a dramatic confrontation. The fate of the Aztec Empire would soon be decided. As Cortés advanced, he discovered the Aztec Empire was a patchwork of resentful peoples. The Tlaxcalans, fierce enemies of the Aztecs, first fought the Spanish, then allied with them to settle old scores. This alliance transformed the conflict into a massive indigenous uprising, with the Spanish as leaders. The Tlaxcalans provided warriors, supplies, and crucial knowledge. Montezuma, still hoping to avoid bloodshed, sent more gifts and warnings, but only emboldened Cortés. The Spanish and their allies now marched toward Tenochtitlan, driven by revenge and ambition. Montezuma's indecision was seen as weakness. The path to the heart of the empire was open. The stage was set for a clash that would change history. The Aztecs faced not just foreign invaders, but a coalition of old enemies. In November 1519, Cortés and his army entered Tenochtitlan, welcomed by Montezuma with ceremony and gifts. The Spanish, awed by the city's splendor, knew they were vulnerable. To secure their position, they took Montezuma hostage, forcing him to rule as their puppet. The Aztec nobility grew restless as their emperor's authority crumbled. When Cortés left to face a rival Spanish force, his lieutenant Alvarado massacred thousands during a religious festival. This atrocity shattered the fragile peace. The city erupted in fury and the Aztecs besieged the Spanish quarters. Montezuma, now despised, died under mysterious circumstances. The Spanish were trapped, surrounded by a city in revolt. The collision of worlds had reached a breaking point. The fate of both conquerors and conquered hung in the balance. When Cortés returned to Tenochtitlan, he found a city in utter chaos. The streets echoed with unrest and his men, surrounded and outnumbered, were under constant siege by the Aztecs. The once uneasy alliance had shattered, replaced by open hostility and fear. In a desperate attempt to restore order, Cortés forced the captive Emperor Montezuma to address his people from the palace walls. But instead of calming the crowd, Montezuma was met with a hail of stones and bitter scorn. Gravely wounded and humiliated, the emperor died soon after, marking the end of an era for the Aztec Empire. With their leader gone, the Aztecs' fury erupted. Warriors armed with spears and shields launched relentless attacks on the Spanish and their allies, determined to drive the invaders from their city. Facing starvation and certain death, the Spanish, desperate and exhausted, devised a risky plan to escape the city under the cover of darkness on June 30th, 1520. Laden with gold and treasure, the conquistadors and their native allies tried to slip across the narrow causeways that spanned the lake, but their movements did not go unnoticed. Suddenly, Aztec warriors struck from all sides. The night exploded into chaos. Arrows, spears, and cries filled the air as the Spanish struggled to escape. The causeways became killing grounds, slick with blood and confusion. Many Spaniards weighed down by stolen gold, and thousands of their indigenous allies drowned or were killed. The lake swallowed both men and treasure, leaving the waters haunted by loss. The battered survivors, mourning their dead and their defeat, would forever remember this as La Noche Triste, the Night of Sorrows. Cortés, devastated by the disaster but unbroken in spirit, swore vengeance. His resolve hardened, and he began to plot his return, determined to reclaim what had been lost. The Spanish defeat was staggering, their numbers decimated and morale shattered. Yet for Cortés and his men, this was not the end. They regrouped, tending to their wounds and gathering their strength for what was to come. The Aztecs had won a great victory, celebrating their triumph with bonfires and songs. But even in their moment of glory, they knew the war was far from over. That night, as the fires burned and the city mourned and rejoiced, Cortés's determination was forged anew. He and his men prepared for a brutal return, vowing that Tenochtitlan would not stand forever. The fate of the city now hung in the balance, and soon the world would witness the final tragic chapter of Tenochtitlan. After La Noche Triste, Cortés regrouped in Tlaxcala, where his allies renewed their support. He built brigantines, warships carried over mountains and assembled on Lake Texcoco, to control the water around Tenochtitlan. The Spanish blockaded the city, cutting off food and water. The siege lasted 80 days with brutal street fighting and relentless destruction. The Aztecs, led by the young Emperor Cuauhtémoc, fought bravely but were overwhelmed. Starvation and disease ravaged the city. The Spanish destroyed aqueducts and demolished buildings, turning the city to rubble. The canals filled with the dead and the stench of decay hung over the ruins. The jewel of the valley was reduced to a wasteland. The Aztec Empire's end was near. The final battle for Tenochtitlan was underway. Amid the siege, a deadlier enemy struck, smallpox. The disease brought by the Spanish swept through the Aztec population, killing thousands, including Emperor Cuitlahuac. With no immunity, the city's defenders were devastated before the final assault. Starvation, disease, and relentless attack broke the city's resistance. On August 13, 1521, Cuauhtémoc was captured, and the Aztec Empire fell. The Spanish and their allies razed Tenochtitlan, destroying temples and idols. The conquest was not just military, but the shattering of a world. Disease claimed more lives than swords or guns. The fall of the Aztecs was a tragedy of conquest, vengeance, and plague. The fall of Tenochtitlan marked the end of the Aztec Empire and the rise of Spanish rule. Mexico City rose from the ruins with cathedrals built atop Aztec temples. Yet the Aztec legacy endures in language, food, and national symbols. Words like chocolate and tomato and traditions in Mexican cuisine trace back to the Aztecs. The eagle and serpent remain at the heart of Mexico's flag. The story of the Aztecs is one of resilience as well as tragedy. Their downfall was shaped by ambition, internal divisions, and cultural misunderstanding. Today, the ruins of Templo Mayor stand beside Spanish cathedrals in Mexico City's heart. The past lives on in the city's streets, a testament to a remarkable civilization. The echoes of the Aztecs still shape the identity of modern Mexico.